how are we all this afternoon? Oh, there we go. Unmuted now. Fantastic.
Hello. I'm good.
Glad to hear it. Fantastic. So suppose I'll come straight to our first question, Savannah, if you will. And that's simply if you could just tell us a little bit more about who Clifford Chance are and what sort of work they do.
Okay, well, obviously I'm sure that most people who are tuned into the call generally know that Clifford Chance is, a widely renowned international law firm. We're a external ranked employer, and LGBT initiatives and diversity in general are incredibly important to the firm. Hence, it being involved in a panel like this, or the multiple panels and initiatives that myself and Dion have been involved in. So yeah, it is just an amazing international law firm, and whether you come into it via the law angle or whether perhaps you're interested in IT or business support services, there's so many roles, so many different things we do, so many different avenues of becoming part of the family of the firm. So it is just an amazing firm. Kind of talking more about what I do specifically, I am a trainee solicitor. I am in my third seat, so I've now been working at Clifford Chance for a year and 6 months. Is actually quite an odd thing to think about. I've been with the firm for quite a while, and I was a future trainee solicitor before that. The kind of work I get up to in my current seat in Amsterdam, where I still am, actually, I'm still in Amsterdam at the moment. I do a bit of banking work, which involves, dealing with loans. In this current period, it involves working with clients in trying to kind of help them through the crisis, help them weather payment difficulties, issues with their supply chain, issues with lenders, just kind of being there for them and kind of reacting naturally to the different issues that might crop up, both in this COVID climate, but in a general business climate. So it's just being there for a client and anticipating problems they might face and going out to them and trying to be there for support. And I can delve in deeply to the nitty-gritty of banking finance, but I'll spare everyone that experience unless you have specific questions for me later. Yeah.
Excellent. And as I said, Dion, I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about what you do. I said we already mentioned you work in tax at the moment, but what does that sort of look like on your day-to-day, as it were?
So tax is slightly more advisory. We do a lot of, I think the thing with a firm like Clifford Chance is a lot of the deals are really big and they involve kind of multiple parts of the firm. So it's kind of integrated in that way. So a big chunk of the work we're doing now has to do with deals that are like corporate deals or real estate, not so much right now, but a deal that comes through where a client wants to, for example, have a company buy another company or do some financing in a certain way. And we kind of look at how to structure the deal to avoid kind of unnecessary risk or like taxation, like double taxation, that sort of thing. A lot of our clients kind of have really complex operations that span many countries. And so the question is, which countries have like treaties with each other, which ones actually like make sure not to tax the same thing twice and that sort of thing. We also do a bunch of advisory work, and that is slightly more, so that was like more of the transactional structuring side. And then there's advisory stuff, which has to do with all the, especially recently, new tax measures that are coming in as an emanation of national policy or international policy. And for that, our job is to kind of keep on top of all of that and to make sure that our clients are kept up to date with it, and anything relevant to them or anything relevant to what they want to do is brought to their attention in a note. We had a really interesting project when the lockdown started, where I kind of collated like 12 or 15, maybe 12 to 15 jurisdictions worth of tax holidays or emergency tax measures in response to the coronavirus crisis. And I thought that was really interesting because it kind of highlighted to me how tax, it sounds very dry, I know, but in reality, it's one of the key ways in which a government can pursue policy. And it's one of the key ways that the state interacts with citizens is tax and spend. And so I think it's been really interesting. I really like it.
Fantastic. That's amazing to hear. I suppose then let's do a little bit of sort of background work here out of curiosity. Savannah, you mentioned about the fact you were a future trainee. I just wondered if you two could give us an idea of what your progression, your career path to Clifford Chance is now, kind of what made you want to apply it, or maybe Savannah, if you'd like to start us off, the future trainee program at Clifford.
Yeah, that's fine. So I think I'll start with what made me want to apply to Clifford Chance. I mean, I applied, or I first got involved with the firm around, I think it was my second year, when I think there were just a few events at my university. So I kind of went along to a few panels, a few talks. I was thinking a bit about careers as a uni student. So just kind of went along to things and kind of wanted to see what's out there. And I think I remember really enjoying kind of the approach they took to the way they interacted with students. I think my first proper interaction was at Clifford Chance was some kind of LGBT breakfast at my university, which was fantastic because very few firms are even doing anything like that. So it was actually kind of exciting to have that. So I went along to breakfast, talked to them about what they did. I didn't know anything about law. I did English at university, but it sounded like something that I could be interested in. You know, I enjoy my research. I clearly enjoy my books doing English. So I thought it was something that could appeal to my skills and my interests. So I just kind of went to a few more events and found that I was actually really interested in this stuff. I quite liked following the news, following business, kind of thinking about that world, and I just felt like it was a good fit. So I applied for a summer internship in the summer of my second year. I was able to get that, thankfully, and then I was at Clifford Chance for 2 weeks and sat in several seats during that time and really enjoyed my experience and was offered a training contract off the back of that internship and accepted it. And then from that point, I was technically a future trainee solicitor because I accepted my training contract offer. But even then, I still had a relationship with the firm. So I spoke on their behalf at the Diversity in Law event, which some of you might be aware of. That's again an LGBT focused event where quite a few different firms tend to host an event. I think it's usually in December, and just talk about what it's like to be an LGBT lawyer in like modern law firms. It's actually would obviously strongly recommend. I'm sure you might see some information about it. But I talked on a panel there on behalf of Clifford Chance. I was invited to a few of their LGBT like open days or just events at the firm, and just I kind of actively took part in the kind of LGBT life at the firm, and I quite enjoyed that. And I went to law school with Dion actually. LPC. It was a lot of fun because again, as a future trainee, you will then be sponsored to do the GDL if you haven't done a law degree, and then to do the LLC afterwards. And that's again a part where you're interacting with the firm and you're constantly going into the firm and they're telling you about the different departments and what you might do, and you think about what it is you want to do once you're in the firm. And they basically take a very active interest in what you want to do and try to show you what it's like to be a full-time lawyer, whether as a trainee or associate, so that you have an idea of what you're doing before you go in. So yeah, I generally I applied to uni and then was able to then later undertake law school. I also actually, just as a side note, did a bit of data protection law alongside going to law school because I worked in a charity at the same time, which is also interesting, and would recommend to, you know, you can get as much experience alongside or in that period of time in which you're a trainee solicitor, because that's only more valuable once you're in the firm, and it's just interesting for you as well.
Excellent. And Dion, and tell us a little bit about sort of your story, your journey here.
Yeah, so like Savannah said, we were in the same cohort, so we kind of joined the firm at the same time, and we did the LPC together. Unlike Savannah, I did study law at university. Although I was very adamant when I started studying that I was not doing it to become a lawyer. I wanted to study it academically. I wanted to read these cases. I wanted to learn about, relations and obligations between people. I wasn't gonna, I wasn't on the path. Um, but when I was, yeah, in university, I I was like living my happy life, reading things in the library at night, and I I realized, oh, I have to think about jobs. And well, I went to the law fair, and um, I thought about it, and I went to, like Savannah, I saw Clifford Chance at the law fair, and I don't know if you've ever seen like a Clifford Chance booth, but it's always this ridiculous, like just rainbow vomit, like just just a huge rainbow banner, and this big thing about all the LGBT work that the firm does, and not just the pro bono work, but also the kind of collaboration type work and the awareness work. Um, and that really like drew me. And I spoke to people at the booth, and they seemed really great. I decided, I mean, I think before that, it wasn't just that I saw like this rainbow booth, and that was it. I also decided that I wanted to um, experience commercial law. I wanted to understand kind of how the global financial system worked. I wanted to know, um, what was going on in the FT, and um, yeah, I wanted to learn these skills. And so I think that's kind of the thought process, and I think that should be how one comes to a firm like Clifford Chance. I think you should think about like what your day job is, um, and then also consider the kind of very important also like inclusion work and diversity work. But yeah, that was kind of my journey. I was a like avowed academic, and then I sold out. But I do love it, and I think that I've learned a lot about how a lot of those principles work in the real world. Some things have a huge bearing academically in law, but in reality like almost never come up because you kind of assess and deal with these risks before they come up. And there are other things where we kind of barely touched on it as in the academy, but are kind of hugely important in practice. So I really I feel very lucky to be learning from kind of the experts in the field.
Excellent. Am I correct to understand, Dion, so you applied for the training contract, as it were, and then received like that, or were you also on a summer scheme like Savannah was?
Yeah, I did not do a scheme at Clifford Chance. I applied directly.
Fantastic. So I guess kind of my next question will be more about that sort of process. Would you mind just telling us a little bit? So I suppose to start with you, Dion, as you went sort of straight to the training contract, sort of whilst you're at university, I imagine, and just tell us a little bit of kind of what that process was and sort of what was going through that.
Yeah. So the application for a training contract is sorry, I just saw a question come in, but I'll answer your question first. It's not dissimilar to the application for vacation schemes, and I did do vacation schemes at other firms as well. But for Clifford Chance, at least, it's kind of one of those online portals where you put in your grades, and then you get these little short essay questions that you fill out about why you're interested in international commercial law, why you're interested in the firm, so on and so forth. So they're like a few hundred words each, if I recall correctly. And you submit that, and then you wait for a while, and they come back to you with an interview, and you show up. Oh, you have to do, I think, one of those Watson-Glaser tests as well. Bane of my life at the time. Yeah. Although I will say to anyone who's going through that, you do get better with practice, which I don't know if it's like how it's meant to work really, but you do. They are kind of similar, and then you show up and they interview you. At Clifford Chance, the interview is CV blind, and I think that's really good because it means that um, there's no way for an interviewer to kind of just have a chat with you if they went to the same like university as you. About like, oh, like how is so and so person that you both know. It's more professional that way, but I will say it is also a little more, because of that, it's slightly less just conversational. It is, there's kind of a script that interviewers have to follow, and they're not allowed to just like chat with you. But I think on balance that did help because it it just felt more neutral. And I've had that experience of doing a vacation scheme at a different firm where there was someone who like went to the same college as found out which professor, like which partner went to like the same college as he did at Cambridge, and and then hung out with him a lot. So I did appreciate, and I think that CV blind aspect, even if it meant that the interview was more distant. Um, and yeah, you interview, and then you get a letter, again with actually a load of information about Arcus, about the LGBT network, as well as Reach, as well as the Race Network and Accelerate, the Gender Equality Network. But yeah, so the process is not super complex. You really do just submit application, do some research about the firm, do that Watson Glaser, and show up for an interview.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And Savannah, what did that look like from a vacation scheme sort of perspective? What was if you can remember what the process was?
Yeah, so I think obviously for like applying for the vacation scheme, it was similar to the application for the TC. You did fill out the form, which involved talking about skills, why you want to apply, that kind of thing. I think the question that everyone had difficult to answer was it wasn't the why. Give a chance. I think they asked a question about like what were you most proud of, or your most proud achievement, which I remember.
Yeah,
Which I remember, that was a really interesting one because you had to actually think about it. I can't remember what I put down honestly, but it's good that it's the kind of application that makes you actually think about why you're applying to the firm, and I think that's one thing people might find when they are applying for training contracts or vacation schemes is you might be tempted to think that every application is the same and that you can copy paste things from one application to the other. You can't. They do pick up on that, and you do have to know why you're applying to a firm and know things about that firm. That's just a general tip for people. So make that application. Then if it's successful, we got the invite to the interview day. I think I had a slightly different interview experience for the vacation scheme in that I had a two interviews. One was kind of based on a problem where we kind of talked through a business scenario, and you didn't need to know anything about law. I was an English student again. I didn't know particular legal terms. I'd kept up abreast with business news. I knew how to talk about business, and so I just talked about the problem in business terms. And I remember having a really, really friendly interviewer who still is a partner in the corporate practice department at the firm. And so we went through the problem solving bit in about 25 minutes. And then we spent the remaining 35 minutes talking about our backgrounds. And she told me about her kids, and I told her about applying and going to high school in Luton. And it was just a wonderful, very informal chat. And actually, she saw me, I think, last year when I first went into the office, and she recognized me and she stopped in the middle of a talk and said, "Oh, I interviewed you," and it was quite funny. I had a very lovely interview. My second one was a bit more formulaic, but that was, again, I think the kind of one that Dion had, where they had to go through certain questions, but it's still perfectly friendly. And then I got through that process and was accepted onto the vacation scheme program. And during that was 2 weeks where I worked in one department for 1 week, another in the second week. I think the vacation scheme is different now. Obviously, it's moved online recently, but I think even before that, it had changed. I think they changed it year from year, so I can't say that my vacation scheme experience will be similar to the current one or the future ones once coronavirus is gone. But I was there for 2 weeks, and then everyone was given an interview for training contract at the end of those 2 weeks. And again, I had an incredibly friendly partner. We went into a room, sat down, started our conversation. We both kept looking at this door that was in the room that wasn't the door that we'd come into the room via. And then after 5 minutes, he said, "Do you want to see what's in that room?" And I said, "I kind of do. I'm very curious." So we got up in the middle of our interview. We went into the room. It was just a little storage cupboard with like boxes and chairs, but it was just it was just really fun. And then we sat down and we're like, "Oh, that's kind of disappointing." And he was like, "Yeah, it was." And it was just so nice and informal. And I think I just loved that. I loved the fact that everyone was super approachable and everyone's friendly. And when I was there for 2 weeks, people would take me aside for coffee or just sit me down to talk to me. Or once when it was quiet, I went to talk to some trainees who shut the door and then just gossiped at me because they were free and they could. And I liked the informal nature, that I liked that people were human and that they were people I could hang out with and people I could relate to, or people with different experiences to me. I was supervised by a guy who was doing corporate practice, but his career, he started off being one of the builders who worked on train tracks, got interested in the business behind trains, took himself to law school in his mid-30s and then applied for Clifford Chance, and then he got a role, and he just told me about his journey there, and I just found that really interesting. I liked the different backgrounds, and I liked kind of the diversity of people and experience that I got there.
Wow.
I guess I'm just kind of almost just selling the concept of my actual experience, but my application process was a bit different, and I just really thoroughly enjoyed the whole stage. So when I did get my offer, I had done a 2 week stint at Vincent Mason's beforehand, and I still had another 3 weeks at Staunton May lined up. But then when I got my offer, I kind of just decided that was where I wanted to go, and so had done my Vincent Mason's scheme, had done my Clifford Chance scheme, decided not to do my Staunton May scheme because on the basis of what I'd met, I preferred Clifford Chance, and just went for it and took the offer.
Yeah, I will say actually that I think I didn't like have a really weird experience at interview as like either. Like I did also meet people that were really friendly. I just like the actual that like the second one interview where they just ask you the questions and they have to follow the scripts, that I was like, am I doing this right? And the really nice like partner, she was like she was like, I'm not supposed to I'm not supposed to be giving you an indication, but keep going. And
Oh, good way to know that. Oh.
Was your interview though different? Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Was your second interview different, Savannah?
No, go on, Dean. Go on.
Yes, so my second interview was a bit more formulaic, and that was
as in your TC interview rather than your
my TC interview. So the TC one was just more of an informal discussion, really. I wasn't asked any like questions like why this, why that. It was informal. Have you found it? Like, what are you looking for in a firm? And we just had a few discussions. I think I had. So when I was there that summer, I came up with a question that I called my trick question to use at interviews. And so I would always ask, I would always just boldly ask people. What did I ask? I asked them, if you, I think, have a chance you modelled after any other firm or firms, what will you model after? And I think generally a lot of senior associates and partners found it interesting. So they would talk about the benefits and drawbacks of other firms, and kind of say, oh yeah, actually I do like that in the rival, or don't like that so much. This is what I would take of that firm to bring to Clifford Chance. And I found that an interesting answer, because for me that was them like thinking about the rival firms as more than just competitors who we don't talk about, but actually thinking about how can Clifford Chance be better, what does Clifford Chance really have. And I liked seeing that side. I liked people actually thinking about that. So I thought that was a great question when I was
That's smart.
yeah, it worked for me, and I think it got great answers. And more people thought it was being cheeky initially, then thought about it, then they often said, oh, that's a good question, because it was at the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you all write that down and use it, it won't be a good question anymore. But that was the question I asked at the time.
Had a lot of questions this year about how we compare to other firms. Yeah, no. Use it sparingly, everyone. Use it sparingly. So I suppose then I'll kind of push ahead. You've talked about or you've mentioned rather in passing, so Arcus and Reach. Do you mind if we talk about Arcus first and then maybe talk about Reach a little bit afterwards? I think, Savannah, you do work with Arcus, if I remember correctly. I don't know if you just want to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I am involved in Arcus. They have monthly meetings of the Arcus committee where people can literally just, in normal times, go into the meeting room and talk about what the group is trying to achieve. But even now, we have video calls and we all tune in and can discuss recent initiatives we're trying to support, things coming up that we can do events for, news items, just kind of generally discussing what we can do as an LGBT interest group with the firm. I think in my first 6 months, I kind of out of the blue decided I was going to lead Clifford Chance Carnival, which is an annual event that Clifford Chance runs, which is a celebration of Notting Hill Carnival, but also celebrating the diversity of that and the welcoming aspect of that. And in Clifford Chance, it's an event that is hosted jointly between Arcus, the LGBT group, and Reach, our diversity network group. And I basically just decided I was going to plan that event, and I did plan that event. And I think I'd been there less than 2 months, and I put my hand up in a meeting. I was like, oh yes, I can do this. And that entailed a 3 to 4 month journey of emailing people in the firm, realizing who did events, emailing different people to try to get them to speak. I talked to and managed to get Anne Salmon, who was one of the founders of Black History Month and Notting Hill Carnival, to speak at the event, which was really exciting. He was wonderful, really awesome. And I just hosted this wonderful event, which was this amazing initiative between Arcus and Reach, and that's still one of my biggest contributions to the network and to the committee, and I was really quite happy about that and really quite proud of it. But yeah, I mean, day to day, it's so easy to get involved. Anyone and everyone is welcome to literally rock up to the committee meetings and just put your hand in the hat and just say, yeah, I'm going to help out this initiative or run this event. It's really so open and so welcoming, and I'm sure Dion has similar experiences as well. It's just
Yeah.
it's a really great network.
Yeah, I think Arcus in particular is really good at getting people started. Because Savannah and I, we were in the same, or like the same grader department in our first seat. So we would go to the meetings together, running to the lift. And that was great because we literally just got an email, an email went out to everyone who joined that February, saying, oh, we have this meeting for Arcus. It's for anyone, LGBTQ people or allies. And we just got the calendar invite and we showed up, and immediately we could get started doing stuff with the firm. With the firm LGBTQ network. So I got started on that Brunei thing through that first the first few months of meetings, and I'm currently doing the firm's response to the amendments to the GRA, the Gender Recognition Act, which has been postponed to September. Woo! So well done to and I think actually now during this lockdown, since we started working remotely, Georgie, who's one of the chairs, the co-chair of Arcus, she started a whole bunch of other things to try and get us more connected than before, because it's a hard time for everyone, but also it could be even worse for people who are not out, for example, or at home, who don't have the space to be queer. So we're doing weekly calls, or we were until last week. We started doing a film club, queer film club, and that sort of thing. The GRA work actually started from a call where we were just going to discuss in general, our feelings about it, because when the news came out, we were quite hurt. But almost immediately, we were kind of spurred into action on that call. We were like, what can we do about this? Who can we call? What letters can we write?
I think when they were briefing to the papers that it was going to be a rollback and they were going to try and sweeten it. I mean, I mentioned about the talk on banning conversion therapy, perhaps that was going to be a sweetener. I think so. Am I so correct to understand that you, as a group of solicitors and trainees and associates, were able to sort of sit down and say, actually, this is something we're interested in, we want to do something around this, and then reach out to organizations to sort of do something about that then? Am I?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we did it over the phone at home in our pajamas. But yeah, exactly. And I think that's really great. It's not just trainees and lawyers, it's also business professionals. It's anyone at the firm. I think that's really important as well. It's not, closed off to like LGBTQ lawyers. It's LGBTQ and allies, it's lawyers and business people and anyone. The other besides Georgie, the co-chair, and me, there's also Tate, who's a junior secretary at the moment, and he's been working, like the three of us have been working with Accelerate, our women's group, to kind of to come up with our response together, and how we're going to time it, that sort of thing. So I think that's really, really cool, and that we literally got together and we said, how are we going to do this? But I think for other parts of other things that are slightly more legal, sometimes we do look for, an organization that a legal organization like Redress, or what was the other one called? Oh, totally, just my mind is blanking. Liberty. There are certain charities that we have long-standing relationships with, that we work, that we did some of these initiatives with as well. So I think I want to say the Brunei thing was with Liberty, but it's been like a year now, and my mind is a sieve at the moment. But yeah, so that's really great. And Reach as well, actually. I mean, Savannah is more involved right with Reach, but I'm doing reverse mentoring with Reach, the race group. And I've been meaning to do reverse mentoring with Arcus, but I don't I just had a lot on my plate.
Maybe tell them more about what reverse mentoring is. I don't think many people know what that is outside.
Yeah. So shall I do reverse mentoring, and you can talk more about Reach general? Should we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so reverse mentoring is something that we do across, I think, all of our inclusion groups.
Yeah.
Does Accelerate do reverse mentoring? I'm not sure, but definitely Reach and sorry, the LGBT group and the race group do reverse mentoring at least, and maybe other groups. And reverse mentoring is where they pair a junior LGBT person or person of color with a senior member of the firm. Usually these white male partners, and we get paired into mentor-mentee relationships. So the younger person is the mentor to the senior person, where we kind of get together regularly to discuss our experiences and to discuss kind of wider issues of race or gender or sexuality, in society, in terms of policy, with the firm. And it's an opportunity for the senior members of the firm to learn, to be educated on these issues, but it's also an opportunity for the younger people to build relationships with people who are senior in the firm, and that kind of makes up for the effect of like showing up to a firm where not many of the people in the senior positions look like you or have similar experiences to you. We kind of circumvent that by allowing for us to build these relationships, and these communities up together. And it's a really great initiative. We had a really great discussion, especially when Black Lives Matter was really exploded earlier this year, and it's an opportunity for. It's interesting because it's easy to think about a firm, especially in terms of hierarchy, right? We say like, this person has been at the firm for longer than I'm alive. I've been alive. They know everything. And in reality, there are certain things where, number one, from my lived experience, but number two, just from being an activist in the space, I am the expert and not the partner who's 28 years in the firm, or even 20 over years as a partner. Like, there are things that I can teach people who are senior to me, and there are things that obviously they can teach me. And so I think that's really great. And it's, yeah, it's just a great opportunity for everyone to learn from each other.
Fantastic, thank you. And Savannah, says you tell us a little bit more about sort of Reach and the work Reach has been doing.
Yeah, so Reach, as I mentioned before, is our network that focuses mainly on racial diversity and supporting that diversity. It's pretty amazing. We do a lot of things. Obviously, in the wake of George Floyd's killing, we've been doing a lot of work to educate all the employees of Clifford Chance and doing more to support various BAME groups and just kind of letting people know what it is to be, me, both in the UK and abroad. We've had some pretty great responses across the network. I think our Reach group, in conjunction with Accelerate, prepared a really great kind of pack about what you can do to be a better ally that was sent out. I can't remember what the name of the pack was, but
The
it was
racial
prepared by.
justice
I think it was that.
resource pack.
Yeah, and that was prepared by trainee solicitors who just wanted to do more, and they just made a bunch of links and resources you can go to learn more and understand kind of what's happened. And that was circulated initially just amongst trainees, and then it was the firm, the actual managing partner heard of it, and then that was circulated across the entire network, which is absolutely fantastic. And it's just again the kind of thing where you can just decide you're going to do something, let people know, a group finds out, and then actually the firm will say, this is great, we're going to send this to everyone because it's amazing and everyone should know. But yeah, the Reach Network is just really amazing. And I think the reverse mentoring scheme started at the Reach Network, and now it also applies to the LGBT network. And yeah, I'm not sure about Accelerate, but I think it might be coming to Accelerate.
And is there a Disability Network? Does Disability Network do it as well? I'm not sure.
There's also Disability Network, but I don't know if they do reverse mentoring. Again, I'm not sure on that. I know they do a lot of other events, but I don't know if they do a reverse mentoring scheme just yet.
Yeah.
But I know that it starts in Reach and it's in our London office, and they're trying to see about doing it in more offices as well, and just kind of seeing how we can spread the message and kind of the guidance to various other offices. Just quickly, I just need to quickly get a delivery, so I'm going to turn off the video for a moment, but I'm sure Dion can handle the next question.
So yeah, I suppose, so coming to you then, Dion, I just sort of wondered if you would be able to tell us a little bit more. I mean, maybe not because you're from, I mean, to an experience, where you're a trainee rather than necessarily in graduate recruitment, but I just wondered if you had any thoughts on what makes the ideal applicant for this kind of position. What, in your mind, I mean, looking at yourself, your cohort, your peers, what do you, what would you suggest really to our attendees on how they can make that application stand out?
I think a good applicant is one. I think the most important thing is that the applicant cares about the work that they would be doing at the firm. And so showing your intentions, like showing that you intend to be, a commercial lawyer and you want to learn that, showing that you're interested in it and that, you've taken steps towards learning about it. I think that's probably the key thing, because people want to know that you will work hard at it and that you'll be good at it. I think that's much more important than knowing anything about law necessarily, or even commercial law or business. I mean, I think it's really good if you do know it, and especially like commercial awareness. I think that's really important, right? Understanding what's going on in the world, how the industry works, what financing looks like. But the firm hires not just lawyers, it hires people. I mean, number one, not just people who are law students, it hires people who have no experience of law. So they're not going to expect you to know anything about law when you come for an interview. They're not going to be quizzing you on law, because first of all, because it takes applicants from a wide pool, but also secondly, because you will be taught what you need to be taught, what you need to learn for the job. So I think that kind of eagerness and that kind of interest in commercial law is probably the key thing. The second thing maybe as well is I think people skills. You need to be able to work in a team. Everything we do is big projects. It's never anything that one person can do alone. It's always a team for the most part. So I think people would like to. I think interviewers would like to see people who can work with other people, and maybe if you can demonstrate that with any experience that you've had in terms of working in a team or any leadership skills, I think that's always useful. Um, and I do think, I mean, I can't speak obviously for for the interviewers. I'm not, I'm not that person. But I also think that being a person as well is important. And I know that sounds silly, but I just mean that you know we're all going to be working together as well, and that means that it's not just about like knowing lots of stuff about business and I don't know, executing things really well. I think, I mean, my impression is that I've when I showed up for the LPC and I met all the future trainees who were with me, it seemed like everyone had a very I mean, people got along really well, number one. So I mean, maybe they selected for that somehow. But also, I think people seem to have their interests. A lot of people did really cool things with their time before, and care about things. I don't know how necessarily, I think some people would have written about the things they were excited about, and that's not always just commercial law, right? If you've done LGBTQ activism, I think that's a huge thing. It's about your advocacy. It's about your standing up for rights and arguing for a side, and it's also about organizing work. So I think what I'm trying to get at is that it's not necessarily about having a huge CV that's tailored only towards being the perfect commercial lawyer. I think people would love to see if you've done other stuff as well, and if you have things that you care about, because it makes you a person that would be great to work with. No, I don't think anyone expects applicants to be like these drones who only do commercial law. And I think that's another just kind of key element. I'm not saying like they're gonna look up what you've done outside of work and you have to do loads of stuff. It's just, well, you could be interested in stuff, and I think that counts too. I don't know, Savannah, you might agree.
Yeah, I mean,
So sorry to put you on the
definitely.
spot. I just feel
No,
like
I
I'm
think
making it up. I'm like, this is the impression I'm getting from the people I've seen.
no, I mean, I think they definitely do look to make sure that they're hiring actual people and not just drones who have memorized the law. No, I mean, it's definitely important to kind of show your personality, because you want to know that you can be yourself at the place you're going to work at. And because, again, the clients on calls, you're interacting with the other lawyers on your team, you're interacting with the lawyers on the other side. And if you know how to be a friendly person, that kind of helps the whole thing. So, yeah, I think that's completely important. Yeah, I've talked about how much it was important to when I was applying, and I think it definitely helped my application. If I didn't think it was a friendly firm where I could be myself and everyone was an individual with their own personality, and then it wouldn't have been a place I wanted to apply to, and certainly not a place that I wanted to work at. So I would absolutely agree.
And yeah, that would suck, wouldn't it? Like that would suck so much to like show up to this to work, and everyone like just is just not. I think that's one of the things I miss a lot. Sorry to like derail a bit, but just like I realized that being at the office is what's great about it is like you see people all the time, people you don't necessarily work with, people you just kind of know from anything, from Arcus that you might have done some work with there, or just met from anywhere else, and you just sit down at lunch and you meet people all the time, and everyone seems really friendly and open. And I miss that a lot, like sitting at home on my laptop.
Tell me about it. I'm grateful. Finally, even if we aren't all here at the moment, it's nice to be back in the office. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to take this to some of our audience questions, as quick fire questions. So I'm going to start with this first question, which asks, how much direct experience with firms did you both have prior to getting your training? Savannah, I don't know if you just give us a rough
Yeah.
idea of sort of experiences.
So direct experience, I guess, obviously, so as I mentioned, I had my initial experiences with the firm at uni, where I went to the brunch. I was then invited to, I actually can't remember what it was. I was invited to another event at the firm that wasn't part of the vac scheme. It was just, it might have been an LGBT event, it might have just been one of the open days, but I
Mm-hmm.
went there and spent a day to kind of with various lawyers talking about their departments and the work they did, and we got to have a little tour, and I taught people then, and I think maybe we might have done some group exercises, just had more interaction then. I think when I was still a student, I went to the diversity in law event and had more interaction with Clifford Chance and other firms, and so kind of built up all these times that I'd met lawyers and had a chat with them. I'm pretty sure there was at least one person I met who I asked them for their email address, and so I just kind of emailed them questions every now and then, or kind of was just in communication with them, which again, a very good tip to do if you're going to fairs and events. Just if you meet someone who you've had like a positive interaction with, just ask them for their email address, or if it's a lawyer, just like ask them for their business card. They almost always have a business card. They just won't give it to you until you ask for it, and then you can just email them if you have questions later. They remember you. You can email them. It works for everyone. So do remember to do that when you're going to physical events. And yeah, I had all that interaction. Then obviously I went on my vacation scheme, which was 2 weeks long, and at that time I interacted with a lot of people. So I think my first department was I think my very first one was derivatives, which I knew nothing about. And as an English student, I was completely out of my element. And Dion's laughing because he's sat in derivatives, so he knows what it's
And
like.
still know nothing about it.
I had no idea what I was doing.
Just kidding, please.
No, I mean, I
For
sat
anyone
there
who's
my first day. The partner
watching.
said, people have been here for 3 years and they don't know what derivatives are. You're not going to know what it is in a week, so just enjoy yourself. And I did a bit of work, read what I could understand, and just interacted with the partner, with the senior associates who were all lovely, with the trainees. So I just got to know people on an interpersonal level there and helped them out with a few tasks where I could. And the same thing my second week when I sat in, I think, the corporate team, although I can't remember whether that was the public or the private corporate team. I can never remember which is which. But I sat in corporate M&A, and again, interacted with various associates and lawyers there, and got chances to actually just ask them about the job and talk to them about various things. I had a trainee buddy as well who I was introduced to during my VAC scheme. I received my offer. Before I accepted my offer, I met up with my buddy, I think at least 2 times, and we just kind of went to a restaurant, talked about the firm, talked about her experiences, and that was actually really helpful, really useful. And I got a free lunch, so it was really nice for me. So that was like more interaction. And so I think by the point that I'd accepted my TC, because I'd been like interacting with the firm like since the beginning of my second year up until like the end of summer and beyond of my second year, I had interacted directly with the firm on some level, and via my work experience there and also other firms, I had a good idea of what it was like to work with CC. So yeah, I had quite a good amount of direct experience.
Fantastic. And Dion, yourself, what sort of experience did you have prior?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm international, so I wasn't even sure, number one, visa-wise, if I was gonna, if I could, stay in the UK. So, I mean, but also just I wasn't sure necessarily if at the beginning of my career search whether I would be staying in London. It was like, I mean, I wanted to, but it wasn't like set in stone if I wanted to stay in the UK or not. So I kind of did a load of vacation schemes in like different places and different types. I did an American firm as well as a British one in London, and then I did a bunch outside. And I think that was like the first kind of stage for me, was using those vacation schemes to figure out like the differences in the style of training and the style of work of the firm. You know, there are firms like most of the American firms in London, they only take a handful, right? Like 4 people in a cohort in a year. And that's such a different experience if you really think about it, from like being in our like cute like class of what, 35. We were multitudes. We had like so many, and I think that made a really different feeling. The type of training was different. The number of departments that you can kind of dabble in are different, that sort of thing. So that's what I looked at first, and that was how I came to decide to, number one, go to like a big like British firm. And then the second thing was like, I didn't do the vacation scheme at CC. I did it at a different Magic Circle firm, but I kind of like also wanted to, I like investigated still like my other friends' experience of doing the vacation scheme at this firm and all the firms. I did do, like I said, the law fair, and I spoke to people there. I'd like heard of, like I had one friend who had gone to CC like the year before. So I like spoke to her. And also CC is really good at getting in touch. So like after you make the application and you get an offer, they assign you a trainee buddy. So not just from your vacation scheme, but also just as a future trainee. You get paired with a trainee, like a current trainee, to kind of have lunch, like Savannah's. And so I like was paired with someone, and I spoke to him. I actually like had met him before, and since like I became a trainee, I've also had like 3 future trainees. I also got free lunch from it.
Not free lunches here, everyone. This is.
But I think that, I mean, it's like, so just to make it clear, it's like when you get your offer, but before you even accept, I accepted immediately, but it's like, even if you don't accept, or before you accept, you're already paired with a buddy who can bring you for lunch. So you can kind of have that discussion and talk about it. And we're not told at all what to say. We're not told as training, as the buddies, as, having been on the other side now, we're not told what to say. We're not told to sell it or anything. We are just trying to make that connection and see if it's a right fit for the person. I think that's really important. We weren't like given like a list of things to say. We weren't told like you should, like we were given a quota of how many people like convert or anything like that. It was just like, hey, you got an offer. I took the offer. Let's chat. Over free lunch for both of us. And I think that made a big difference too. And even after, the firm, I think, is, compared to my friends in other firms, it seems like we were involved at a much earlier stage. We were invited to Carnival before we ever joined the firm. We were brought in to have presentations about all the different departments, from the different departments, before we ever like stepped foot in the office as trainees. We were kind of like reached out to. The firm includes future trainees in the like recruitment events as well. So even before you start as a trainee, you can represent Clifford Chance at these recruitment events. I went back to my university to do an event as well. So I think it is just like there's a wealth of information. Even if you don't want to just read like the website and read like the material, you can actually reach out to and meet people. And that is how I kind of figured out what Clifford Chance was like and why it was right for me.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'm afraid we've kind of run out of time for questions now, guys, unfortunately. However, I will point out that both Savannah and Dion are on myGwork. They are on myGwork, and you can connect with them. They're also mentors. So if you're looking for more advice, got any questions, please do reach out to them. But thank you very much to Savannah and Dion for giving us your time this afternoon. It's been fantastic. And I'm sure that our attendees will. Our Inclusive Employer of the Week. Thank you so much for your time and for answering our questions.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and look forward to seeing you all soon.